Good morning. It is the third day of week 4. It is going by really quickly, and um, yesterday was just such a powerful day. And I wanted to, share all those testimonies with you. I have all of my receipts here to help me keep track of, which testimonies to share. I also have all this stuff written down to make sure I keep track of things. And so I was in CJ's van yesterday. We were working in Hawthorne and Longdale, and so I was in Hawthorne Businesses for the morning. One of the first businesses I go to is a laundromat. I met these two people, a woman and a man, show both of them habits. They were in a conversation, so I canvassed them on the both time. They were really interested, but they couldn't afford it, and so the man already gave me habits and walked away. The woman, though, she was really interested, and she's like, all I have is $5. I can't give anymore. And then so usually somebody during the day over donates so that we can give for that person who really needs the book, but can't give more. The over donation helps cover the cost of that book. But since this was the first thing in the morning, I hadn't had any over donations yet, and I was just like, oh Lord, help me. But she really wanted the book, and I know she needed it, and she said, I will read it, I promise. I'll even show it to the other guy after I'm done reading it so he can read it as well. And then I was like, oh, pray for me that I get over donations so I get to cover the cost of the book. But I was like, okay, I'll give it to you, even though she wasn't able to give the complete donation. And then so I was praying with her, and then she says, could you pray for my sister, because she actually has heart problems, diabetes, all these other problems, and she's in the hospital right now. And I was like, you know what, give her this book as well. After you're reading it, show it to her, because it tells the stories of people who have actually been able to reverse their disease through doing the habits, and the principles from this book. And I was like, there are testimonies in this book that show you those stories. And I was like, this is an amazing book. And she was like, yeah, I'm actually visiting my sister tomorrow, and so she's going to show her that book. Next one, a few businesses down, I get to this man, and he's actually coming out already. I think he was the store owner, and then so I start canvassing him with habits, and he was like, oh, I'm 70 something, still going strong. And then I was like, and then he mentions that he has younger children. And then I was like, wow, and he says, yeah, I have younger children. And so I show him Storytime, and then I show him the Real Heroes as well, and Prince of Peace to complete the set. And then he gives me a $40 donation, which covers the cost of the habits that heal. And so the Lord has been really faithful, and it's just been amazing how he's been working to provide for me and provide for the people who are getting these books, so that for those in need, that they can get these books. Next time, one of the next businesses that I went to was a car wash, and so I had canvassed. Businesses is so intimidating, when you go door to door, even if you get rejected, you kind of, it's more familiar ground, and it's a one-on-one conversation. The person in the next house over doesn't know you just got rejected. Most of the time, sometimes they see it as well. But when you go to businesses, it's a very public rejection. And then when people see, oh, they already got rejected by that person, I can easily reject them as well. And so I went to this car wash, and I was just going from car to car to car. And it was just like rejection, rejection, rejection. And then I was like, even change it, like, oh no, the last few quarters I have are for, to vacuum the car or whatever. And so I was just like getting rejection. And then I was ready to on my second to the last car when this other car pulls in. And so sometimes when you're at businesses, it's easy to say just, oh, I've already talked to 2-3 people, I should just leave. But I said, Lord, give me courage. And so I went back to this new car that had just arrived, canvassed the guy, and I saw that he had kid stuff. And so I started with a story time, and then he did end up getting a story time. And so that was a lesson for me to just keep courage, and canvas everyone and anyone you meet, because you never know who's gonna get your book. And even if you've already faced rejection, 5 times, there's still that one person who might say yes. So, just keep going and keep canvassing. And then yeah, so and then I canvassed the last car in the car wash and then moved on to the next one. And so I was actually walking when I get to this print shop. So they do like t-shirt printing and stickers and all that. And I was the owner says, "Oh, hold on, I'm with a customer." So I go ahead and I start talking, or I wait outside and I'm waiting for them. And it was actually the customer, when he was done, who turns around and looks at me and says, "Oh, what do you have?" And then so I tell him, we're students working on a scholarship, start doing the canvas, and then he's like, "Oh, you come to my church, I'll get a book." And then I was like, "Oh, on Sunday we're actually already doing missionary work and are already out in the field doing this." And he was like, "Oh, okay, like what church do you go to? When are your services?" And then and I was like, "Okay, I go to Hawthorne Seventh-day Adventist Church. It's the corner of Prairie and Marine." And then he goes, "Oh, really? When are your services?" And I was like, "It's 11 a.m. on a Saturday." And then he goes, "You go to church on Saturday?" I was like, "Yes, we keep the Sabbath." And he goes like, "Oh, why do you keep the Sabbath? The law's been fulfilled, Christ fulfilled, or you don't have to keep the law anymore. It's salvation through grace." And then we were getting into this like really long conversation of, he's like, "Do you believe in salvation through grace?" "Yes, I do." And I was like, "Through the church." And he says, "If you love me, keep my commandments, and that is why we keep it." And then like we were just going back and forth, and I was like, "Yeah, Jesus kept the Sabbath." And he's like, "Yeah, but he healed, and it was against the law." And I was like, it is good to do well on the Sabbath." And I was like, there are only 7 specific circumstances that he heals on the Sabbath, and they were very personal, one-on-one circumstances. He wasn't doing mass healings on the Sabbath. And then so it's like, it is lawful to do good on the Sabbath. And then so I continue, and hold on, just went for a quick change of location. So one of the other students could practice the piano in the sanctuary. I don't know if you could hear her in the background. She is amazing. And so it's actually really nice to just wake up in the morning and like hear this wonderful music. Anyway, continuing the story, I was okay, so we were having this long conversation with this guy. I was having this long conversation, and then it was like, and Jesus says, in the end times, pray it doesn't come in the winter or on the Sabbath. So I was like, so that means they still keep the Sabbath even to the end times, and his disciples kept the Sabbath. And I was like, yeah, but fulfill the law now, whatever. And then so like we went, he was like, it was given to Moses, this was before Abraham. And I was like, the really amazing thing, in creation, way back in Genesis, God establishes 2 institutions, and that is marriage, and he gives us the Sabbath. So this was even way back in the beginning, before even the fall of Adam and Eve. And I was like, it is just so amazing. And I show him the answer book, and then he was like, yeah, but it's the law. And I was like, okay. And he was like, it was given, free will, God, and then, choose him, love him, whatever. And I was like, are you married? And he was like, yes, I am. And I was like, okay, you love your wife, you chose her freely. If you cheat on her, is that okay? And then he was like, no, but it's like, and I was like, it's the same with God, we chose him freely, and it is our love, and to show our love and commitment, we keep his commandments. And then he was going like, oh, but we can't equate ourselves to God. And I was like, definitely, it's just an illustration. And then it was getting to be a long conversation, and we have to be wary of what we call devil's rabbits, which are people who kind of just waste time. And he was being respectful, and then it was getting a little bit passionate, and just going back and forth. And then because there are people who do need these books, and so we don't want to waste our time on any particular person who is just gonna get into an argument and not get books, because there might be somebody else who, because we spent time with this person, we don't get to them. And so I was like, Lord, help me get this book out. And I was like, I actually have to get going. But like I was telling you, I showed him the answer book again, and I was like, right here it talks about the Sabbath, right here it talks about salvation. And I was like, search it out, you have wonderful questions. And I was like, I go to Hawthorne at 7th Avenue, so if you ever want to visit us. I showed him the receipt, circled our mailing address and the office number, and he was like, oh, but how do I talk to you again? And I was like, oh, we don't actually give out our personal information. And he was like, yeah, but like, what if I want to know more? And then I was like, and I told him again, like the contact office, information from the office and stuff. And he was like, but do they know what was his like, do they know as much about the Bible as you do? And I was like, they know more. Like, in many ways, that interaction really encouraged me to go back and study my Bible and be able to explain it, because some of these things I know, but I don't know which exactly the verses to quote from, or how to do apologetics, and then I still kind of felt inadequate, and so that I was able to give a positive impression on him was really great, and it really encourages me to keep on studying my Bible, and to be able to present my faith. Hello. Hi. This is Hayao. So
I'm the curly hair one. Yeah.
The curly hair, yeah. Anyway, so I point back to the answer book, and then he said, and he's like, oh, more information, and I was like, go ahead and contact our office, and then he gives me a $20 donation, and I was like, with this $20 donation, you can get this book as well. I pull out the GC, the Great Controversy, and I say it actually goes through the history of freedom and explains why there are so many different religions and how these things came to be, and it just has a really cool perspective on history, and so for his donation he was able to get the answer book and the Great Controversy, and he seemed like a passionate person, and I really hope that it leads him, those books help him to have a closer relationship to God, and that he would actually one day reach out. Next one, so I was spending a lot of time with him, and I was like, okay, I need to go back to the shop where I initially met him, because I never actually did get to talk to the owner. When I get there, there's another customer, and he's wearing a shirt that says "Only God Can Stop Me," as well as a hat that says the same. And then so I start canvassing both of them. I show them Habits That Heal, and then he was like, you know what, let me get the Habits That Heal, not for myself, but for the owner of the shop. And he was like, hey, read this book. And he was like canvassing it for me, read this book, for your health, and then even show it to your customers. And so he got the Habits That Heal for his friend, for the owner, and then he gave a $20 donation, and I was like, for this one you can actually also get this one as well. I show him the Promise of Peace, because he was very spiritually minded, and I was like, it talks about, it goes over the story of Jesus. It's number 1 on the Library of Congress of the 10,000 books that are written about Christ. This was actually rated number 1. And he was like, what? That's so cool. And he starts to share his testimony. And then so I was, at the beginning of the same print shop, I was able to get pretty much 4 books out. And then later, one of the last things for that day was I was able to get a Promise of Peace out. So I go to this shop, they do payroll services, and then I show him Habits, like, oh, I actually have that book before, somebody already, and I was like, oh, do you have this one? He also has no, he went back to his I was like, oh, which books do you have? And so he went to his magazine stand, and he was like, I actually buy this, and just so I have a variety of things and leave it out here for my customers to read, and so his customers have been reading Habits That Heal. Great Controversy was also there, and he was like, you get one every year. And then so he also got Peace Above the Storm, before I left, and so it was really cool, because he that every year he gets a book, and then he there's just more avenues to reach people that way, and because it's in a business, who knows who else is going to read these books, and then so we're just able to reach more people. And then the next story is actually another over donation story. I get to this house. He gives $15 for a piece above the storm, and I was like, he's a Christian, praise the Lord, all that. And it was interesting. Hello again.
Hello.
Because there was.
Sorry. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, I was just talking like testimony from yesterday. And so I was like, it was like 5 apartments. And all of them had no soliciting signs.
Oh no.
And then so I like went ahead and knocked on the door, and this guy gets peace above the storm. He gives a $15 donation. I go to the next one, and then she gets a Cocina. And then so like later on in that neighborhood, I actually go and meet this girl, and she's Catholic, and then she's like, I'm a heavy reader. She like reads J.R.R. Tolkien, and the Lord of the Rings and stuff. And I was like, yeah, my family actually loves that series, but all she could give me was $6, and the $15 over donation covered it. And so I was just like, praise the Lord, that there are people who are over donating and helping cover that one.
I remember this one testimony yesterday. It was like I was talking to this kid.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, get up here.
He was like around my age. And I'm just like, you seem like a reader. Do you like to read a lot? And he was like, yeah, I like to read. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've actually read those books myself. And I was like, so I'm guessing that you like a lot of history and science, right? I'm like, yeah. How'd you know? I'm like, I made a wild guess by the books that you had told me that you read. And I'm like, so here's actually one of my favorites, and I showed him a GC. And he was like, oh, this is amazing. So what is it about again? It's like Bible facts, prophecies. It's all like, it sounds fictional, but it's really non-fictional. And he was like, okay, that's so cool. Like, and yeah, like he comes back with the $10 donation. I'm just like, you my friend are my new best friend.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And it's really cool because like this the girl who gave $6, she was she just graduated from high school too. And then and it was funny because we were driving in, and then Alyssa goes, I know those shoes. She was like, like it's like really popular. It's a fashion thing, whatever. And then so like when I met her, I actually commented on her shoes. I was like, I have a friend, she's going to fashion, and when we went by, she actually recognized your shoes. And she was like, oh, no way, I want to go into fashion as well. And so we were able to connect over that.
Oh my gosh.
And it was just really like a divine appointment. And then she was like, we were going like all these like things and like what we had in common. And then like she was just really interested in the GC. And so it was like, just great. like the amazing things that happened yesterday. It was just so powerful. Oh, and Hayel was in the same van as me. So she kind of like,
what was going on.
Yeah, it was just powerful stuff. And then like Alyssa, the girl I was with, she actually got a 3-set devotional out. And then like the lady was and a kid set as well. Yeah, and the lady who got the devotional set, she was just like, initially she was like, I don't, I'm not interested, don't want to be interrupted. And her mom had passed away, but her mom had told her like things happen for a reason. And she was like, I think there is a reason that you came to my door today. And so Alyssa has her own powerful testimony. And then one of the, I do want to talk about this one. It was one of the last houses of the night. I was about to knock on this door, and then I see there's a guy in the driveway, and then so I canvassed him real quick, showed him a GC, and then and I was like, are you actually heading in or out? And I was like, I'm actually heading out. The restaurant's about to close. Like, I'm getting my Thai food, whatever. And then so I call, and he was going to use his credit card. So I call in to CJ because he has a Square thing on his phone that you can swipe the credit card on. And then thank goodness CJ was near the area. And so the guy was able to give a donation, get a GC, and, be on his way to get his Pad CU. I actually told him about the Pam CU.
The Pam CU?
Pam CU, yeah, because one of our leaders' her name is Pam.
And she's our kitchen head.
Yeah, she's our kitchen head, so instead of Pad CU, she makes Pam CU.
Or like, instead of pancakes, it's Pamcakes.
Pamcakes, yeah. She has really cool names for it.
Yeah, I've actually been learning a lot in kitchen. Like, I actually know how to make Pam CU and pancakes.
Hey, that peanut sauce was really good.
I didn't try the peanut sauce.
Oh.
Yeah, because, I cannot.
Wait, are you allergic to peanut sauce?
Because the peanut sauce had a little bit of soy in it as well.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. I'm allergic to soy, guys. one of my testimonies as well. I thank her so much, and I appreciate her so much. She has been teaching me Tagalog since like week 1, and my Tagalog is not perfect; it's very broken.
But she's trying real hard.
I'm trying really hard. And yesterday I met a Filipino family, and they had no idea what I was saying. So I heard their conversations like, "Oh, Kuya, do you wanna like come translate and help out?" And like, you know, I was like, "Oh, Filipino? Where do you come from?" "Oh, we come from the northern area, blah blah blah." I was like, "Oh, magandang Gabrie, like good afternoon. My name is Hale. We're just students working on a scholarship." And like, they didn't have enough money to get a book because I mean, yeah. I was kind of sad, but
getting some of that language.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, amen.
Right. Well, I gotta go.
Oh, wait, what time is it? Is it chore time?
52.
Okay, I have 8 minutes to finish up these real quick. And so I have one last testimony to share. It is actually from earlier that day. I canvassed this woman. She's doing fresh, she wanted to get fresh. And then so I started talking to her, and then I was saying, we also actually do these community surveys as well. And so I told her about the naturally cooking school, the free Bible studies and all that, and she was interested in Bible studies, and she signed up to get Bible studies in the mail. And so that was just really wonderful to be able to reach out to people and reach them where they're at and answer their needs. And so yesterday was just such a powerful day. There are a dozen more testimonies from my event as well. So it has been amazing, and God has been working powerfully. We asked on Saturday for a double portion of the Holy Spirit, and when we got off events, my prayer was, Lord, help us as we go door to door and prepare the hearts of the people that we're meeting, and He definitely answered that prayer. Okay, that's all for today, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, I love you.